Massive win and performance from Spurs in midweek. That sort of eases the pressure, does it, on Thomas Frank? Crook, what is the latest with that? Because everyone was saying he was going to get fired after Tuesday night because everyone anticipated that Borussia Dortmund would beat them.
Yeah, and it felt like a matter of when and not if Thomas Frank's tenure was ended. But I think it has brought him a stay of execution, albeit if they go to Burnley and they don't perform, they drop more points. I think certainly the pressure from the fans will only crank up again. And you have to take the Dortmund game in isolation. Yes, they started really well, but that early sending off, which I think the common consensus is was harsh, didn't half help Tottenham. And there was still anxiety around the stadium when their performance levels dipped a bit in the second half. They've still got unhappy players in Matthias Tell and Randall Kolomoani who are trying to get out of the football club this month. So, I don't think we've heard the end of those reports about Thomas Frank's future.
I think we're a little bit concerned if we're Tottenham Hotspur fans, Scott Minto, that Romero and Van de Ven have 11 goals, which is more than the entire front line combined.
Yeah, but you do want goals to be shipped around if you're not scoring up front. And Dominic Solanke is back, and what a finish that was midweek. I'd like to see him try that again. But even the 11v11, I thought they were the better side. I thought it was a really poor Dortmund side, really disappointing. But from an individual point of view and collective point of view, I thought Spurs were excellent. And look, I like Thomas Frank, and I've seen the way he evolved that Brentford side. But there are issues with that Spurs side this season. That yes, of course he's had injuries, and yes, there are mitigating circumstances. But both with the ball and without the ball, it doesn't look like they've been particularly well coached. So I do understand where the Spurs fans are coming from. The only thing is, after that, and if they do get past Eintracht Frankfurt, or even if they do lose to Burnley, really, are they going to get rid of him before that Frankfurt game?
I was going to say this, right? You can't sack a manager that has got you into the top 4 of the Champions League. How can you do that? How can you decide that the season is so bad that you're going to sack a manager that's got you into potentially the knockout positions of the Champions League without having to go through a playoff round? When, let's be honest, they didn't really deserve to be in the Champions League. They finished 17th last season. Come on. I mean, let's get a little bit real here. I know I say that all of the Premier League teams should just go through because they've got so much financial power behind them. But, okay, they aren't very good. Do you know what? They're not very good to watch either. Performances are never 90-minute performances. They're only ever sporadic and in-game performances. But they've had a lot of players out. As Glenn Hoddle couldn't stop telling me on Tuesday night, 13 players out at the moment. You have to understand that is a big, big issue. I don't think it's perfect, but I don't think you're going to solve Tottenham's problems by sacking Thomas Frank. I'm just putting it out there.
No, I think you're right, and I'm a big Thomas Frank fan. I've defended him. I think the expectation levels among some of the Tottenham supporters are unrealistic, but I think he's got an issue with the dressing room. I think there are some players there who think they should be playing for Barcelona and Real Madrid. Again, maybe they need reminding. Maybe they need reminding that they finished 17th last season. So I hope he turns it around. But this is not an easy fixture, is it? Burnley, defensively, much better organised than they were under Vincent Kompany. Obviously, you've got the Scott Parker factor. He could be a contender long term to replace Thomas Frank potentially. So on the back of such a high in midweek, and their Champions League form has been excellent, I think this is a potential banana skin for Tottenham.
Now, Crook, I know you have a penchant for hyperbole. However, in the context of the Premier League, this is about the easiest fixture you can have in that division. No? In terms of away fixtures, this is number 1 on the terms of I would like to go there and play. Maybe 2 if you count Wolves as well. This is a match that they should be winning. However, Scott, West Ham hadn't won in 10 before playing Spurs. Bournemouth hadn't won in 11 before playing Spurs. Burnley, winless in 13 before playing Spurs. They couldn't, could they?
They're meeting Dr. Spurs, aren't they? Burnley away is not an easy game, and I know that. No, honestly,
it's not. But in the context of the whole league, you're not going to get many easier trips. I know no trip is easy. I don't. We used to come out with the platitudes of the Premier League managers. There's no easy games, but it's the easiest one out of the lot, isn't it?
But no, I don't know. I mean, Burnley went to Liverpool and got a draw there, didn't they? I mean, they they just make things. I think the word easy is not quite right. Should they win? Absolutely. But I think Burnley can make it quite ugly. I think Scotty Parker knows what he has to do. From 2 years ago when, Vincent Kompany thought he was still playing for Manchester City, or, he was at Man City. This is a really dogged, hard-working side where if they're not at it 100%, either physically or mentally, if this is after the Lord Mayor's show, then they're not going to win. It's as simple as that. So I do get what you mean. Burnley, I do believe, will be going down along with Wolves, and we'll have to see one other. But these are the games, absolutely, that will define sort of Thomas Frank and getting the fans back on side, because it's not just the Dortmund at home, and hopefully they will qualify for top 8, not just for the playoffs in the Champions League, but can't keep on being bottom half of the Premier League, and in a way that they look like they're not being coached particularly well. That's the thing. If they look really tight and they're losing games by odd moments, or it's a really exciting game, they look like going forward, and then you can blame the injuries. I do think they need to look a better coach side, but they did midweek, and it's important they follow up on that.
John Heitinger has come into the management staff over the last couple of weeks as well, just to add a little bit of experience, Premier League winning experience. He was the assistant manager last year at Liverpool, so that might be an interesting turn in events. And I know you think I'm being facetious, but if you are ranking the Premier League away trips, I'm not saying it's easy. I know that there's no easy games in the Premier League. It's the best league in the world. There's never an easy game. It can go any way. But the fact is that if you're making a list of the places that, you want to go to back up a big performance in Europe, if you've got to go away from home at the weekend after you've played against Borussia Dortmund and put 3 points on the board, okay, you might choose West Ham first because the London Stadium is such an apathetic place to go to at the moment. You might choose Wolves, although they've got a little bit stiffer over the course of the last few weeks. Then you'd probably choose Burnley, right? Okay, so look, I think if you're Tottenham, this is a game that you've got to go there and you've got to back it up with a performance. West Ham take on Sunderland, 12:30 live on talkSPORT. They kick off the weekend at home to Sunderland. A win here puts them just 2 points behind Forest in 17th and gives them a bit of pressure. But the issue that they've got, Alex Crook, is that despite the fact that I think the players that came back from international duty really helped them last week, the players coming back from Sunderland are going to help them too.
Yeah, and Sunderland just keep rolling on and on, don't they? Every time you expect them to falter, they come back with a response. I think they'll relish going to London Stadium. As you've mentioned, it's not been a happy hunting ground for West Ham for, a number of months now. And yes, it was a morale-boosting victory over Tottenham, but I actually think it suited them playing away from home and using the toxicity that was being aimed towards Thomas Frank from the Tottenham fans to get that victory. I do think they've got a little bit better. That QPR game in the FA Cup, which again was primed in many people's eyes for an upset, I think they navigated that pretty well. And you're right, the players coming back from AFCON have made a difference. I think Somerville, who's been linked with Tottenham this week, has played really well in the last couple of games. Obviously, you've got the Paquetá situation lingering, but I do think this will be a harder game for Sunderland than maybe it would have been 2 or 3 weeks ago.